thank you guys for everyone who's here so far. Welcome to our third and final battle of this first chapter of the Battle of the TMS. My name is Sammy Anderson. I'm our marketing coordinator at Softcrylic. I'll also be moderating this battle today. At Softcrylic, we work with 4 of the major tag management systems at any given point. Some of us have experience on all 4, while others have deep experience in a few. But we are always learning more and more about each every day. We always like to battle it out internally about the greatness or inferiority about the tag managers we live and die with at our day-to-day jobs. We do it by cracking jokes about them, and thought it would be fun to open up and discuss the discussion to the industry and help us make fun of each other while also continue to learn about each TMS. We hope to run a few battles, continue these as we go forward, get better at them, and invite other experts around to give their opinions, as we have some here who are joining us today. With that being said, the way it's going to work is we're going to have 5 different rounds. Each round, each tag management system will have 90 seconds to be defended, and then we'll do a 1-minute rebuttal with all 4 participants, and then we'll give you guys 30 seconds to vote on who you think won that round. Try to be fair and omnious about which tag management system, even if you have a favorite. We also wanted to take this chance to introduce you guys to one of our new extensions, Switchboard. It's a Google Chrome extension for analytics and media tag implementers that will ease day-to-day efforts working with any tag management system, switch environments, detect essential implementation issues, and customize any network requests with anything. You can learn more about it and download it at softcrylic.com/switchboard. When you close out your webinar today, there will also be a prompt for you to get more information from us on the tool, and we're happy to follow up with you to give you more information on how it works and where you can find the details on it. Our disclaimer before we get into our battle: our tag management system battle is purely based on our expertise in implementing and managing these tag managers in real-world business scenarios. We are not influenced by representatives of the tag management platforms being compared or by any third-party agencies to exaggerate or short-tell the functionalities of these platforms. The opinions laid out in this webinar are solely of the individual. Opinions may include factually incorrect statements on how a TMS may operate. We rely on our audience to call us out or battle us and help us correct these during or post-webinar. For every discussion we're seeking the truth. If you have a really strong opinion or a new tag manager that we're not aware of, or you want us to explore specific questions or scenarios in future battles, please let us know at info@softcrylic.com to participate. Today, our panel will consist of John Paul Behrens from Softcrylic. He'll be defending Google Tag Manager, as you can see in his background. Also from Softcrylic, Ray Piccolotti. He's defending Adobe Launch. Jason Moore with Reynolds American defending Tealium, and Cheyenne Samani from Delta Airlines defending Ensighten. If you have any questions during the webinar or post-webinar, you can get in touch with us always, events@softcrylic.com, if it's in persistence to just this event here. Also, for our first 5 people to participate in our chat or ask a question in the Q&A, you can receive one of these Best Friends for EVAR t-shirts, limited to people who are in the US for mailing reasons. So, with that being said, we'll get into question 1. Let me find it here. So first round, how do you handle an event-driven data layer with the TMS? We will start with Jason.
All right, you ready? Sammy, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So Tealium is a little bit different here. The data layer for Tealium is a flat object. So if you're comparing this to something like GTM, it's different. The way that you would handle events or eventing in Tealium is you've got a standard set of fields that you would use. And anytime an event would occur on the page, that event would then post an update to that flat data layer object, and thus overriding the values that are in the data layer. So from a debugging standpoint, this can be a little bit of a pain because you're not able to retroactively go and see what's in those fields. So to get around that, there are a couple different things that you can do. The first of which is you can use any of the extensions that they offer, which help you log what goes into log each event as it happens on the page, see what's posted into the data layer that way. But just from a cleanliness standpoint, anytime that you need to keep information, it's a good idea to have it get stored into its own private variable. as a means of making sure that it doesn't get overwritten anytime that that flat data layer object gets updated.
10 seconds.
That's where I'll close.
All right.
Can you give us a 30-second mark?
I'll put it for 30 seconds. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Let's go to Ray with Adobe Launch.
All right. So with Launch, Adobe's recently released a GitHub with their version of an event-driven data layer, but really under the hood, to get the bare bones, you could write your own, or use theirs, or find somebody else's. Now, how to have that interface with Launch? You have a couple options. So if the framework you're using uses custom events, like the JavaScript convention, then you can listen to those natively. If you are writing your own, you can just push direct calls. If you are using the Adobe one, you can either write a bit of code to listen and push events that way, or there will likely be more extensions coming out. I think there's maybe one extension out there right now that does this, and there'll be more on the market soon. And so using an extension would be the other option if you don't want to write your own JavaScript to do that. So it's certainly possible without a whole lot of effort, but it's not the native way of doing things at the moment.
All right. Awesome. Cheyenne, do you want to defend Ensighten next?
Sure. So I'll probably say that Ensighten is probably closer to Tealium in that the one that Ensighten generates is more so of a flat object, right? But that's not to say that because Ensighten has the capabilities of writing custom code into it, you can create an event-driven data layer inside of Ensighten. And so what I'll kind of say is that once that's set up and built custom to the needs of where your data exists, they do have a data layer manager app that can help walk through the setting of this up. And once that is done, Ensighten has built-in capabilities very similar to the other tag managers to create triggers or events to watch for changes in the data layers, or what to watch for changes in the other data elements or app responses. It can also watch for page elements. And so once you have that set up, you have a range of options of how you can configure this with Ensighten, where it can detect page or view state changes if you have a single page application, clicks, mouse down, mouse movement, and of course, as I mentioned, value changes within the data sets as well. So the default implementation is that flat data layer object, but does have support to listen for an event-driven data layer to support that, and then you can set up the triggers around it.
Awesome. All right, JP, take it home.
All right. So I'm just going to start saying with how visionary is Google with Google Tag Manager. I mean, they've been around since when? Since 2013 or something like that. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But the native way that GTM consumes data is through a event-driven data layer. Okay. And this actually makes it so easy because you just have to focus on, structuring your data layer. And whenever you want GTM to capture that data, you include a little variable in that data layer that says event, and then you name that event. In GTM, there's a trigger that is specifically designed to listen for those data layer events or those events in the data layer. So by design, it's an event-driven data layer, which means GTM works exquisitely with single-page applications, modern frameworks. GTM, I think, is probably the best one out of everyone, and it's so easy to use. You don't have to worry about a flat data layer object or anything like that. You don't need that. You just need an event-driven data layer. So yeah, GTM's visionary, and it's super easy, and they were the first.
All right. So now that all four of you have gone, we'll give you a minute to argue, debate with each other about things you didn't agree with or reasons your tag manager was better based on each other's points. Starting now.
So it
Okay.
sounds like it sounds like GTM has been pushing their agenda since 2013. I would say the other tag managers all have the flexibility for event driven, with launch being the easiest and most streamlined way of doing it, while still giving you the option for a flat data layer, because that is for a lot of situations the best way.
Okay, so the thing about Google is now the industry is moving in this direction, right? It's all about event-driven data layers. Everybody wants one, you know, and to be honest, I think that, you know, the way Google Tag Manager approached it, I mean, it just speaks for itself, right? You know, you can certainly, as a skilled developer, you know, as yourself, Ray, you know, you can do whatever you want, right? Development, you have wizards out there. But with GTM, you don't need to worry about that. It's already in there. It's a UI, it's a click and drag it. So it's super easy.
All right.
You don't have to implement a new extension and event and all that.
Rebuttals.
Yeah, well said.
So now the poll is live, so you should see it prompt you in your window. You'll have 30 seconds to answer and vote for who you felt won round one.
I mean, we all know who won round one. It's pretty easy.
I think you're going to be shocked.
Uh-oh. Ah, Jesus.
Ensighten will take round one.
Oh, hey.
The flexibility. It's to raise points. It can do anything. So
Can do
no matter
anything.
who you have or what implementation you have, it can support anything.
All right, so we'll start with you, Cheyenne, for round two here. The question for round two, what else can your tag manager do?
So I love this question. So not only is Ensighten a tag manager, a leading solution in the industry when it comes to launching tracking pixels, marketing technologies, it's also a perfect test bed to build custom solutions. And our IT team actually is known to sometimes prototype their solutions within the tag manager before the Delta platform and launching it that way. And so while Ensighten's base product is their powerful tag management platform, it's also complemented by a suite of other must-have solutions. It has a companion mobile product that I'll maybe explain a little bit later in the next couple segments here. Ensighten was one of the first platforms to come out with server-side tagging over 2 to 3 years ago. Its technology, thought leadership has pushed the industry forward to move into this direction, pushing ad tech platforms to upgrade their technology to adhere to changing browser restrictions. And not only do they have a mature server-side product, they also are a leader in the space of marketing security and privacy, where their product offers a range of solutions when it comes to protecting customers from malicious threats, form jacking, key logging, code injection, so on and so forth. So think of it like a third-party firewall when you're using a tag manager that deploys hundreds of advertising and marketing technologies. So that makes it the perfect companion, automatically blocking threats and offering that custom reporting.
All right. JP, what else can your tag manager do?
So GTM recently launched server-side tagging, and I think, you know, when Google does something, the industry kind of follows. You know, so I think the way that they're doing it is pretty simple. You know, you just have to you know, implement the embed code and then kind of forward everything over to the server side. And you know, it's great. You know, obviously everybody knows the advantages of server side tagging. What I think Google Tag Manager has that none of the other ones have is the preview mode. So Google Tag Manager has this, again, built-in functionality where, you know, you do changes, you preview it, and then not only can you see the changes that are in staging or whatever you want to call that, but you can detect the events as they happen, and you have like your little list of events with the sequence, and then you can see the variables, what they're captured at that point in time. You can see what tags fire, which ones didn't fire, and whatnot. So it really helps you manage and debug your implementation like no other. I think it's extremely straightforward that way, and that's why I love Google Tag Manager. With the 360 version, you also have something called zones, which helps you kind of keep things organized and so on if you have multiple teams working on it. But yeah, okay, so yeah, that's it.
Perfect. All right, Jason, what can your tag manager do?
Well, I'll start by saying, I've heard it twice so far, and I probably suspect that Ray's going to say it too. The hosted data or the hosted cloud tag delivery process, that's not unique. So I'm going to skip over that, even though Tealium can do that, just like all the others can. What's unique about Tealium is they've got a series of tools within their interface, referred to as extensions, that really have kind of a marketing twist on them and allow you to do things that normally you have to pay for another service to do. For example, they've got an attribution solution where you can identify contributing channels, whether they're the originating channel, an influencer, or a closer. So that's a unique thing to them. Additionally, they have some in-page sort of modification that you can do. They've got a content modification extension that allows you to adjust the site and the way that it looks on the fly. It's got a split segmentation function that enables you to do A/B testing, as well as it's got its own modal offer pop-up. And you can use that content modification, the split segmentation, as well as the modal offer to do some offer testing, as well as show consumers different offers and really drive conversion. So it's got a bit of a marketing twist and some of the additional things that it can do compared to the other tools.
Perfect. All right. Ray, what else can Launch do?
So Launch, of course, can also handle the whole Adobe stack better than anyone else. A couple clicks, you're all up and running. So it does that very well, but that's kind of to be expected. Some of the big features that stand out as unique to me are some of the mobile app, what you can do in native. So with the new AEP SDKs, you can do things like trigger rules based on geolocation, points of interest. Let's say you enter a stadium, that can trigger a rule which maybe does something in analytics, but also maybe it does something in Target, or sends that data to a third party for as a postback for advertising. It really has some really powerful, unique mobile features. On the website, it really stays streamlined and true to what it does. I think the API is I haven't worked with all of the other APIs, but maybe one of the more robust ones out there. Yeah.
All right. So now everyone's had a chance to defend what they think what else their tag manager can do. We're going to give you guys a minute to rebuttal together. If you had anything you wanted to share or attack somebody with.
Attack. Well, I'm just going to say that the cool things that Cheyenne and Jason said regarding Tealium and Ensighten, I mean, they're cool. Who's going to say no to that? But what they neglected to say is that you do have to pay for them. You pay a lot of money, and I mean, that's something you can't ignore. GTM, completely free. If you want to leverage some of the paid features like zones, you get 360. But that's something interesting to keep in mind.
So what else do you get with GTM? You don't get anything else if you have the paid version of GTM or the free version, right? Compared to, yes, you have to pay for the other types of solution that it offers.
But you don't need anything. You just use other solutions for that.
Or you can, right? And I mean, server side for GTM isn't going to be free. It's when it comes out.
It's not about GTM charging. It's because of the server side solution. You have to pay that with any tag manager.
Oh, absolutely. And so that's what I'm saying is that GTM is probably their only other offering there is server side tagging.
All right, the second poll is live. If you weren't here for the first one, you have 30 seconds now to vote on who won the round about what else your tag manager can do. Whoever comes in first this round, you will start round 3. We have about 15 seconds left. All right, and that's time. Tealium took the cake this round. So Jason, you'll be starting off round 3. Can you use this TMS as a mobile app? How would that work?
Yeah, so Helium actually works very similar to the way that it would in a web application here. It's got the same basic parts. From an implementation standpoint, you're still basically putting the code inside of the native app instead of in your web code. The tracking calls in the code are used to collect any user activity or events that are all create those as part of your app or part of your experience. The data fundamentally is still being sent to vendors, and that can be done whether it's a browser-based or cloud-based delivery. Just as with the normal web version of this, the tags there, the vendors, are all managed through the TIQ portal. I think where Tealium has a leg up here is just as with their desktop version, the strength that they have and bring to this is the amount of vendors that they've pre-integrated with. So, just as with on the website, on the mobile side, they've got a preset of a bunch of different tags that are ready to go. All you got to do is enter in your information and add it to your use case. So there you go.
All right, awesome. Let's go to Cheyenne.
Sure. So yes, you can use Ensighten Mobile inside of your mobile app. They offer a product where you put the SDK into your app. Ensighten's mobile product allows you to fire off marketing pixels and analytics similarly to how you would with the web tag management product. It will allow you to quickly deploy tags in real time without relying on recompiling the app or waiting for a new app version for your users. You can automatically track app lifecycle events such as app launches, page views, clicks, deep links, crashes, and much more without writing that additional code into your app. It already has that built in. And then furthermore, you can track page views, events, conversions that are very specific to your app. That's going to obviously be a little bit more on the custom side of things, right? So a developer is probably going to be a little bit needed there. But the good things is that it features some of the same things that I mentioned about the web implementation, where it has the privacy integration that you get on the web. Another nifty feature that it has the ability to serve native notifications that's timely and relative to your relevant to your customers based off the triggers and events that I mentioned. And yes, it does support Google and Adobe Analytics. And best of all, the mobile product is also compatible with the server-side product. So all those benefits of removing the footprint from web also comes to the app, where you can capture all your metrics without having any bit of third-party code on the app, which is likely preferred given that iOS and Android are very sensitive to what goes into each app, right, when it comes to third parties. So I'll probably end it there.
Right on the dot. All right. Ray, can you use Adobe Launch in a mobile app? How would that work?
Yeah, you can. With the new AEP SDKs, they've really streamlined it. So when you first set up your property, just like you were setting up a web property, you just have a drop down. You can choose mobile instead of web, and start setting up your extensions. So extensions you can think of on the mobile side as like their own like little mini SDKs that get all bundled up and streamlined together, that all kind of hinge around this kind of core piece where it can share events and things between all of them. So once you've done that, you can use CocoaPods or Gradle, copy and paste, and let your dependency manager keep your SDKs up to date. And then you have a lot of options as what you can do through Launch. I touched on some of the POI, point of interest, postbacks with other vendors. Of course, all the Adobe stack is super streamlined and easy. If you have, if your developers add a trigger, that you're keying off of for, say, analytics, you can then piggyback on that for a postback or maybe sending that data to Audience Manager or Target. You can do all sorts of things all with without having to recompile.
Great. Thanks, Ray. All right, JP, close out round 3. Can you use a GTM in a mobile app? How would that work?
Absolutely, you can. GTM in mobile app, the best way to deploy it is GTM plus Firebase in your mobile app. So the way it works is you first need to get the Firebase SDK, which itself is pretty powerful, and then you need to create your GTM app app container. I should say it's different from your web container. And then from there on, really, you can do 2 things. One, you just track your app in very similar way you would do with web. You need your UA ID or your GID if you're using app plus web properties. You can track screens, actions, and so on. But the other cool thing is you have Firebase tags and Firebase variables in GTM. So you can add, modify, or even delete events from the app that you want to or don't want to track with GTM. And so this is really powerful because what happens with development teams, usually they're very guarded of their app, as they should. So with Firebase, you end up adding all these tags. GTM will generate the JSON file for you. You need to send that to your dev. Dev drops it in the app, adds the GTM dependency library, sync, and launch. And so you'll have all these new events or modified events that they could have forgotten during the initial implementation of the mobile app. And then you basically manage that through GTM, which is amazing.
Perfect. All right, everyone has said their piece now for round 3. We'll go into our minute of rebuttal, starting now.
Yeah, JP, that's unfortunate that you have to hand off the JSON and you can't just deliver it through the cloud like you can in Adobe Launch. Seems like an extra step, but
Yeah, well, it's an extra step, but it's still better than having to talk to the developer and try to explain everything that you're doing. It makes it pretty simple.
I mean, I don't think you can get away from that, right? I mean, any solution you go with, you're gonna have to talk to a developer in any form or fashion to explain what.
I agree. I think the biggest myth of TMS industry is you won't need developers. That's horrible. You still need them, but with this feature, you can certainly make it easier. The one thing I would say is GTM is not throwing everything in the sink to GTM with apps. Similar to Tealium or Ensighten, maybe even Launch with all the extensions. Seems like you guys are just like doing everything. So, something to think about. Be more focused.
All right, so it's heating up a bit. Round 3's poll is up. Remind you, the question was, can you use this TMS in a mobile app? How would that work? You have 15 seconds left to finish voting, and then we'll move on to round 4. Couple more votes still coming in here.
GTM.
And that's a poll. Ensighten will take round 3. So Shannon, we'll start with you again. Round 4, walk us through the process of using your TMS to deploy a media pixel on the homepage.
Sure. So given that this is a pixel that's going on the home page, it's going to be very simple, as typically there are limited or no data elements that are usually required or meaningful to pass in most cases. So I'll kind of go with the direction of not adding data elements. So step 1, you'll want to make sure you have any supporting documentation or pixel code that's generated from your media platform. Step 2 is to go into the conditions and create a condition for the homepage, which is simply just pasting in the URL for the homepage, generating it, saving it. And then you're going to want to go over to the apps menu, search for your media pixel vendor. And Ensighten's library has over 1,000 vendor technologies. So more than likely you're going to find it. But for some reason, if you can't, it offers a custom JavaScript or HTML solution that you can paste in your code that you got from your media vendor. But for purposes of this example, let's say you're using DoubleClick, you search for DoubleClick, you select it. Most Ensighten pixel setups will allow you to configure it manually by entering in the relevant fields for that pixel, or just pasting in that JavaScript or HTML code you get from the vendor, whatever is easiest. So step 4 would be to add those details. Next is then associated with the environment, so like a staging environment. Make sure that that works. And then select the condition that we just created. And then finally, you would save it, queue it for deployment, make sure you have no other pixels to deploy, and set it live. And that's pretty much what it is. And then once you get into the rhythm of creating these pixels, you can just start duplicating them and just start changing the variables that are going to be in those. So any data fields or any ID fields that you change, and you can set those live. And so roughly 10 to 15 minutes when you're first starting out, and it gets really fast into the 5-minute range.
Perfect. All right. Ray, walk us through the process of using Adobe Launch to deploy a media pixel on the homepage.
Yeah, so I'm going to repeat a lot of what Cheyenne just said because yeah, the concepts are very similar. So you would create a new library. I'm a big fan of Jira or another similar platform. And when I create that library, I like to associate it with the Jira ticket number, so that when you eventually publish the pixel, you can kind of tie it back to something, you know, some requirements that was provided. But yeah, you have a couple options. You can either do custom code if that's your flavor of choice. There's also many extensions that allow you to work with third parties through that method. You could also write your own extension if you had really specific requirements, and keep that private even. So you could write an extension if your company or organization had very specific requirements and you were going to have to do this over and over and over again. Yeah, test, publish, prod QA, kind of rinse and repeat. The only other thing I'll say is by default, launch loads asynchronously, and any actions load asynchronously, so you're going to get some good performance there.
All right. JP, you had a lot of head shakes early on. How does GTM, walk us through the process of using GTM to deploy a media pixel on the homepage?
Completely different from everybody else. No, I'm joking. It's actually pretty much the same. You know, I think the important part is, you know, you need to have a good process. So similar to what Ray was saying about a Jira ticket and so on. You know, I normally, you know, start from a pixel request form, and then, you know, the business person brings the request to light. We log it in there, and then we pass it over to the implementer. You know, you need to select the trigger, which is usually a very simple page view trigger based, you know, with the condition of just firing on the home page. You know, Google Tag Manager has a number of tag templates already available. It doesn't have all of them. For example, there isn't a Facebook native one. But what Google does have is a very big library of custom templates that's driven by the community. And so you'll find a Facebook template built by Simo Hava, which everybody knows who that guy is in the GTM world. Obviously, we all thank him so much for his collaboration. You know, and you can even build your own. So similar to how you know, Adobe, you know, goes with extensions, you can do the same with the GTM. And then, you know, it's pretty simple. You just make the change, save it, publish. You don't have to do any extra steps or many clicks. It's very quick, unlike other ones where you have to commit and so on. But anyways, I'll stop there.
Fine. Perfect. All right. Last but not least, Jason, tell us about Tealium.
Sure. So, you know, and this is going to sound very similar to a lot of the other stuff, so I'll try to gloss over some of that, but there are some things unique to Tealium. But at its base, you know, it functions the same as the others do. You've got 3 parts, right? You've got the tag, you've got the criteria that you need, which in this case would be the homepage URL, and then, you know, whatever data you want to send within that tag, right? And those 3 things together are what get the data where it needs to go. So in Tealium, you know, going through the process of actually setting this up, you know, again, those 3 parts are, you know, actual parts that would need to be stitched together. So you'd have to make sure that that load rule is created. And, you know, I think it was Cheyenne said this earlier, that's going to be something that you're going to share across a lot of different tags, something that's like your homepage load rule, which is just going to have that URL in there, and it's going to be usable by a bunch of different tags. So you create a new tag, and you would assign that load rule to it, and then additionally, for any additional data mapping that needs to be done, you map those variables. What's unique to Tealium here, I think, again, coming back to their tag library, is the amount of tags that you just be able to search for and add to your site. But with one additional thing, generally when you get a request like this, you get a big snippet of code from some vendor who doesn't know what it does. You can actually search by that snippet of code with their tag identifier or tag detector as a means of identifying what the right tag is to turn on, and it'll pre-populate any of the fields that you need to populate with, like your account information and stuff.
Time. Perfect. All right, guys. We've all said our piece. Here's your minute to rebuttal.
That's interesting. I like the tag detector in Tealium. I didn't know that they.
Yeah, me too, actually.
Pretty interesting feature. I'm not
That
gonna
left
say anything
me
bad.
wanting. Yeah, I agree. That's a pretty cool feature, Jason.
Yeah, it's the one caveat that I have to that, not that I should be talking down on my own tool, but the caveat to that is, it's based off of, so Tealium maintains their library and, updates new versions of tags. So if you get a new version of a tag and they haven't updated their library to reflect it, then it wouldn't one-for-one match with what they have in their library and wouldn't know to detect it. So, it's based on the snippet that you're given aligning with what they have in their library. But other than that,
great.
it's
That's terrible.
Ensighten works the same way, where it's they own the library of all the apps, so it has to be updated by them in order for you to take on the new features or what have you.
Yep.
The important thing to keep in mind with that is that these tag managers end up being very monolithic in that way. But they're good features, man. I have to say.
Because after time doesn't count. Strike it from the record.
Poll is live. We need a few more people to vote and a couple more seconds left here before we will move on to our final round of the day. People are switching teams. All right. Tealium will take round 4, even with the setbacks. Maybe it was the honesty. I don't know. Jason, we'll start with you for round 5. In regards to Tealium, how about an order confirmation page?
Cool. So a lot of the same stuff that I said before still applies, right? You've got the 3 basic parts that you're going to need to configure here, which are the tag itself, the criteria or your load rule, and then the data that's going to be sent in the tag. Now, when you're talking about an order confirmation page, you're talking about a bigger payload of information that needs to be collected. Down to the order ID, the information on what products were purchased, so on and so forth. So that said, obviously you've got to have a data layer in place, or you've got to somehow be collecting that information. What's good about Tealium here in the way that they've approached this is they've standardized these e-commerce variables in what they refer to as the e-commerce extension. So all of these e-commerce specific fields, like the price, like the order ID, and so on, all come into these standard fields. And what they've done is their tag library for any tag that deals with e-commerce, they have done the mapping for you so that any tag that you deploy that's using e-commerce variables will bring in the values from that e-commerce extension without you having to do those custom mappings. So in the case of Tealium, where it's set apart from the peers here, is that when it comes to setting up an order confirmation page, if it's in the library, you add it, and everything just works.
All right, time. Ray, we'll go to you with Adobe Launch. How about an order confirmation page?
Yeah, so probably echo a lot of the same kind of concepts here, but might gloss over some of the similarities. So of course you need some sort of condition to know what the order confirmation page is. Usually that's URL path. Launch offers a whole slew of different conditions to to allow you to refine that. You would, of course, use data elements to populate any of the requests from the pixel. So things like the order ID, the revenue. You are likely already have all that data for analytics. So it'd be simply reusing those data elements for this new pixel. That could go straight into the extension if you're using the extension, or with a simple bit of JavaScript if you are going the custom code route. One thing I'll mention is you have some nice options with kind of disentangling the two. So if, let's say, you want the analytics to fire no matter what, like you don't want a pixel error to break something, by having these in sort of different actions. If you get an error in one of the pixels, it won't impact any of the others, or in analytics or any of your other tools. Launch also has a nice logging options for the console. So you have you can just do console output, or you can do errors and warnings, but those will only be seen to a user who has the extension or debugging enabled.
Perfect. Cheyenne, how about Ensighten?
Sure. So probably same thing here, right? I'm going to gloss over a lot of the similarities that Ray and Jason mentioned. The previous steps I even mentioned are roughly going to be the same. Really the only difference being that when you're setting up the condition, like Ray mentioned, you're going to want the order confirmation URL in the condition. So once you have that set up, you'll want to head over to your data definitions or your data element setup. And this is where you're going to configure your confirmation number, your product details, transaction attributes. And if you have a data layer set up, or an event-driven data layer, and you already have all of that mapped, you should be good to go. And so once you have all of that created, you can go back over to the tag creation. You'll select your data elements, you'll add those pieces in. Those steps are pretty easy to walk through. It presents itself in a drop-down menu where you can select from the library of your data definitions or data elements, and those variables can be like a data layer item, URL parsed variables, cookies, JavaScript variables, scraping web page elements, so on and so forth. And so, like I mentioned, once you select that into your pixel, it's the same closing steps. You associate it with an environment, you associate it with the condition, save, queue it for deployment, and then once you're done with the testing, you would merge it for a production environment and publish it again.
Awesome. JP, we'll finish out with you here.
All right. So GTM, similar to what those other guys have said. You need your condition that's specific to order confirmation page. You need your variables for each one of the important confirmation page data that you want to capture, and then you need your tags. You can have one trigger for all tags. That's definitely a preferred way of doing it. The one thing I would say that really helps, GTM, specifically with Google Analytics, GTM has an option for you to use data layer. It's, whenever you use a Google Analytics tag, as long as you follow the Google prescribed data layer format, you don't have to worry about a lot of the mapping or anything like that. All you have to do is do the trigger and the tag, and then just check the box that says use data layer. And Google Analytics will capture all of your e-commerce data, perfectly fine, on that confirmation page. For media pixels, you do have to, map your variables to your media pixels. But it's pretty simple to do.
All right. Good arguments all around. Now your final minute to make a point. Closing argument on this question for your rebuttal here.
JP, it's really unfortunate that Google only thought about themselves when they did that built-in mapping there.
Yeah, I agree. Tealium does have a really cool e-commerce extension, and you're right. When it's implemented right, it just works. But what I've seen is that it's never implemented correctly. It's very complicated to do. But if you do it, man, I think it's wonderful.
Jason, you have to also remember that GTM is mostly used for non-enterprise organizations, right? More that when you're an enterprise organization, you want the flexibility and custom of an Adobe launch and a Tealium or an Ensighten that it can adapt to a customer environment no matter how they're built, right? GTM is not well equipped to handle all of that.
That's very well said. I couldn't have said that better myself.
I think it is well handled, and I can, we have quite a few enterprise.
Not going down without a fight.
Yeah. GTM's the best, guys. Period.
Closing argument. The poll for round 5 is live. This vote will potentially be determining the winner of battle number 3. A lot on the line here.
Everything just works.
Notice the air quotes. It means sometimes it doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Exactly.
All right. Tealium will take the win for round 5.
Woo!
Congratulations.
I mean, we knew it wasn't going to be GTM, so.
Yeah, sorry, man.
Oh, man. I need some of my Google folks here. So.
We can move into our closing argument, closing statement, defending your tag manager. We'll start with Jason, respect to the Tealium win of round 5. Whenever you're ready.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've said this each go round that we've done this, I think, and really where I kind of pulled through today was, Tealium has a really good tag library, and they've done a lot to build up their functionality in a way where it feeds into the tag library, the tag detector, commerce extension. And when you think about a good enterprise level tool like that, all the parts talk to each other and work to each other well, or work well with each other. And I think that's exactly what's happening here. They've got a really good system of just various parts that add up to a really good ending solution there. Yeah, I'll close it with that.
All right. GTM, what do you have to say, JP?
So for GTM is GTM, right? Like it is what it is. It's very focused, very lightweight and very user intuitive, right? Tealium and Ensighten, these guys are very good. Don't get me wrong, guys. I actually like these tag managers quite a bit. I work with them a lot. You do have to have a good partner to really know your way through these tag managers. That they're so extensive that it's very complicated. And that usually comes with support hours from their own vendors. To help you achieve your goals. The community that comes with GTM is unmatched. Basically you can just Google anything and your solution to your GTM problem will be there. And so for that reason, GTM is, I think in a lot of people's hearts, it has like a very special place, because it's free and you can just do a lot of things, basically everything. So yeah.
All right, Cheyenne, your closing statement for Ensighten.
Sure. So as I mentioned before, Ensighten is a powerful tag management product. Once you become familiar with the tool, it's very simple to set up your media pixels and launching them, possible for both web and mobile, right? Solutions completely agnostic of any vendor solutions, and it also features over 1,000 vendor technologies that's built into their library. What I really like about Ensighten is their Bootstrapper engine. That's their under the hood technology that has some of the most advanced engineering in the space that offers brilliant code compression, optimized tag delivery to make your tag deployments extremely minified, super quick to deliver without impacting performance. And guess what? Your IT team is going to love that. However, if you want to completely remove the footprint of media pixels altogether, Ensighten has that server-side solution that I was mentioning that will not only improve site performance by migrating your pixels, but also your security benefit. And as I mentioned, Ensighten is becoming a leader in the space of marketing security, which they have actually trademarked. And their privacy product acts like a MarTech AdTech firewall, which really truly makes the perfect companion. So as closing up here, Ensighten makes it really easy to deploy, validate tags while unifying customer data across websites and mobile apps alike, all while protecting their customers or your users with security and governance.
Awesome. And Ray, finally, launch.
All right, launch. I mean, while it's maybe hasn't won any of these individual categories, in my heart, launch is the perfect blend. It is free if you buy an Adobe product, but it gives you the depth of features that you'll see in a standalone product like Ensighten or Tealium. Now, if you're already you're not going to buy launch to implement a free version of Google Analytics. But I think it gives you all the features you would need for the enterprise level implementation you're going to do with Adobe Analytics. You might say it's a disadvantage for it to be not tool agnostic, but I think that's actually a benefit because it makes the Adobe stack so easy. And if you've already invested in that, then it's really just going to hold your hand through the process.
Awesome. Well, great job today, you guys, battling it out. Do you want to hear the results? All right, Tealium won overall. They also won. We get an overall who won this battle during your rebuttals. We let people change their opinion if they wanted to. Tealium took the cake on that as well. Fun fact for Battle 1, Tealium also won our first battle, the TMS, a few months ago. And then Ensighten and Launch tied for Battle 2. So Tealium, you kind of won the first chapter here, winning 2 out of 3 battles total. Good job, Jason.
Good job.
Jason.
Congrats.
Thank you to everyone who was participating. Thank you to all of our panelists today. It was super fun. If you have more questions about our digital analytics services, anything like that, reach out info@softcrylic.com. Again, if you want to find out more about our Switchboard Chrome extension, it'll prompt you in the survey post-webinar. Please let us know. Again, you can find it on softcrylic.com/switchboard. If you're watching this retroactively, also same URL. We're also launching a new newsletter, Insights in Minutes. There'll be clips of videos, internal and external, that we release, giving you the key points that you need to know. So you can register for that list to find out these exclusive tidbits throughout the MarTech industry. Thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great rest of your day.